Article on the Maratha Empire into approximately 20 detailed parts, each focusing on a key phase, theme, or region. Tentative structure. 1. Introduction to the Maratha Empire. 2. Socio-political conditions before rise. 3. Early life of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. 4. Foundation of the Maratha state. 5. Military organization and fort strategy. 6. Shivaji's administration and reforms. 7. Conflicts with the Mughals. 8. Coronation and consolidation. 9. Successors of Shivaji. Sambhaji Rajaram Tarabai. 10. Rise of the Peshwas. 11. Balaji Vishwanath and Bajirao Bhai. 12. Maratha expansion in the north. 13. Administration under the Peshwas. 14. Relations with Rajputs, Mughals and foreign powers. 15. The Third Battle of Panipat, 1761. 16. Post-Panipat recovery. 17. Maratha Confederacy and internal politics. 18. Conflicts with the British. 19. Decline and annexation. 20. Legacy and impact on modern India. Part 1. Introduction to the Maratha Empire overview. The Maratha Empire, also known as the Maratha Confederacy, was a powerful Indian polity that rose in the 17th century and played a critical role in shaping the political landscape of the Indian subcontinent until the early 19th century. Originating in the Deccan region of western India, the Marathas emerged as a formidable force under the leadership of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who laid the foundation for a sovereign Hindu kingdom in the midst of prevailing Mughal dominance. This empire is celebrated not only for its military prowess, but also for its administrative innovations, promotion of regional culture, and its unifying vision for India. At its zenith, the Maratha Empire controlled a vast territory stretching from Tamil Nadu in the south to Peshawar, in present-day Pakistan, in the north, and from Bengal in the east to Gujarat in the west. Historical significance. The Maratha Empire is significant in Indian history for multiple reasons. 1. Resistance to the Mughal Empire. It was the most powerful indigenous force to challenge and eventually dismantle Mughal supremacy in India. 2. Hindu revivalism. Under Shivaji, the Marathas championed Hindu political resurgence at a time when Islamic empires dominated the subcontinent. 3. Administrative innovation. The empire established systems of governance, taxation, and military organization that influenced later Indian rulers. 4. Cultural influence. The Maratha rulers were patrons of arts, architecture, literature, and regional traditions. 5. Precursor to Indian unity. The idea of a pan-Indian confederacy set the tone for future nationalist movements during British colonial rule. Geographical foundations. The geographical nucleus of the Maratha Empire was the Sahyadri Range, Western Ghats, and the Deccan Plateau, which provided both strategic and natural advantages. The rugged terrain of Maharashtra was ideal for guerrilla warfare, a technique that Shivaji and his generals mastered. Over time, their influence spread to major regions including Konkan and Desh regions, core Maratha territory, Mysore and Tamil Nadu in the south, Malwa and Gujarat in the west, Bundelkhand and Ganga Yamuna Doab in north-central India, Bengal and Odisha in the east, Punjab and parts of Afghanistan in the North Timeline period event. 1674 Coronation of Shivaji as Chhatrapati. 1707 Death of Aurangzeb and rise of Peshwa influence. 1761 Third Battle of Panipat, temporary decline. 1761, 1818 Maratha Confederacy period, 1818 defeat in the Third Anglo-Maratha War. Empire ends, key features of the empire. Chhatrapati, emperor, supreme leader beginning with Shivaji. Peshwa, prime minister, de facto ruler in the later period. Ashtapradhan Mandal, council of ministers under Shivaji's reign. Military innovations, use of light cavalry, swift movements, and fort-based defenses. Revenue system, Chauth 25% and Sardashmukhi 10% levied from conquered territories. Confederacy model, semi-autonomous chiefs e.g. Scindias, Holkars, Bonsleys acknowledged Maratha sovereignty. Sources of historical knowledge. The history of the Maratha Empire is reconstructed through a variety of sources. Persian records, e.g. Mughal chronicles, Marathi literature, and Bakar texts, European traveler accounts, British colonial records, archaeological findings, and fort architecture. Conclusion. The Maratha Empire marks a transformative chapter in India's medieval and early modern history. It represents not only the assertion of regional power but also a proto-nationalistic spirit that sowed the seeds of a united India in later centuries. Their story is one of valor, resilience, and administrative brilliance, and it remains deeply influential in the historical consciousness of modern India, particularly in Maharashtra and surrounding regions. Part 2. Socio-political conditions before the rise of the Marathas. Introduction. The rise of the Maratha Empire in the 17th century did not occur in a vacuum. It was the outcome of a complex web of socio-political unrest, declining central authority, and regional resistance in the Deccan region of India. To understand how and why the Marathas could carve out a sovereign kingdom, it is crucial to examine the political, economic, and social structures that existed in the Indian subcontinent, particularly in the Deccan Plateau, before Shivaji Maharaj's emergence. 1. Political landscape of the Deccan and India. A. Decline of the Bahmani Sultanate. The Bahmani Sultanate, a powerful Muslim kingdom in the Deccan, broke apart in the late 15th century into 5 smaller states: Bijapur, Golconda, Ahmednagar, Berar Bidar. These Deccan sultanates frequently engaged in warfare, draining resources and leaving their populations weary and disillusioned. B. Mughal expansion and pressure. The Mughal Empire, under emperors like Akbar and later Aurangzeb, aimed to bring the Deccan under direct imperial control. Mughal campaigns in the region were long, brutal, and often alienated local populations, especially the Hindu peasants and warrior castes like the Marathas. The Mughals' heavy taxation and lack of sensitivity toward local customs fueled resentment. C. Fragmented rule and power struggles. The Deccan sultanates were often engaged in internecine warfare, such as the conflict between Bijapur and Ahmednagar. The lack of stable governance opened opportunities for local leaders to rise. 2. Socio-economic conditions. A. Peasantry and agrarian crisis. Agriculture was the mainstay of the economy, but the constant wars disrupted farming cycles. Frequent taxation by multiple authorities, Mughals, Deccan sultans, local landlords, left the peasantry impoverished. This created unrest among rural communities, especially the Kunbi and Maratha peasant castes, which became the backbone of Shivaji's support base. B. Land revenue systems. Revenue extraction was arbitrary and harsh. Systems like ijaradari, revenue farming, allowed corrupt officials to exploit peasants. This weakened traditional village communities and created room for charismatic leadership to emerge. 3. Religious and cultural dynamics. A. Hindu-Muslim power balance. The ruling class in the Deccan sultanates and the Mughal Empire was primarily Muslim, while the majority population in the Deccan was Hindu. There was cultural alienation and at times religious oppression, such as destruction of temples or limitations on festivals. This religious divide, though not always overtly violent, created a sense of Hindu subjugation. B. Bhakti movement. The Bhakti saints like Tukaram, Ramdas, and Namdev preached a message of devotion, equality, and social justice. This movement fostered a spiritual awakening among the Marathi-speaking population, emphasizing pride in local language and identity. Samarth Ramdas, a key saint, later supported Shivaji's mission and provided a spiritual foundation for Maratha statehood. 4. Caste and community structure. A. Maratha caste. The Maratha caste was primarily composed of peasants and small landlords. They were skilled horsemen and warriors, making them ideal candidates for military service. They were socially mobile, willing to rise through merit, and thus attracted to a leader like Shivaji who promoted competence over aristocracy. B. Brahmins and administrative support. Brahmins played key roles in administration, education, and religious rituals. They later became important advisors and revenue officers under the Maratha state. 5. Economic and strategic importance of the Deccan. The Deccan was rich in resources, especially cotton, sugar, spices, and minerals. Trade routes connecting the interior to western ports like Surat, Goa, and Bombay passed through the region. Control over these routes meant economic power, which both the Mughals and the Marathas sought. 6. Rise of local warrior leaders. Several local chieftains and jagirdars, landholders, began asserting autonomy. The Bhonsle family, to which Shivaji belonged, held a jagir under the Bijapur Sultanate. The growing independence of these local leaders indicated the weakening grip of the central powers. Conclusion. The socio-political environment before the rise of the Marathas was marked by fragmentation, exploitation, and cultural alienation. The Mughals were overstretched, and the Deccan Sultanates were in decline. In this context, Shivaji Maharaj's leadership emerged as a unifying force that gave voice to the Maratha identity and channeled regional discontent into the creation of a sovereign, stable, and culturally rooted state. Part 3. Early Life of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Introduction. The story of the Maratha Empire begins with one of the most celebrated figures in Indian history, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Revered as a nation builder, military genius, and champion of Hindu identity, Shivaji's early life laid the foundation for his later achievements. Born into turbulent political times and exposed to diverse cultural and martial influences, Shivaji's upbringing played a pivotal role in shaping his vision of Hindavi Swarajya, self-rule of the Hindu people. 1. Birth and family background. Full name, Shivaji Bhonsle III. Date of birth, February 19, 1630. Place of birth, Shivneri Fort, near Junar, in present-day Pune district, Maharashtra. Father, Shahaji Bhonsle, a prominent military commander serving the Ahmadnagar and later Bijapur Sultanates. Mother Jijabai, a deeply religious and morally upright woman, instrumental in shaping Shivaji's character and ideology. Shivaji was born at a time when the Deccan was a cauldron of political intrigue, with the Mughal Empire expanding southwards and the Deccan Sultanates fighting for dominance. His father's military career often kept him away from home, so Jijabai took personal responsibility for raising Shivaji. 2. Jijabai's influence. Jijabai, a devout follower of Lord Rama and goddess Bhavani, ensured that her son was raised with a strong sense of Dharma, righteousness, patriotism, and cultural pride. She narrated stories from the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and tales of great Hindu kings. Her moral and spiritual teachings became the cornerstone of Shivaji's character. She instilled in him the dream of establishing Swarajya, a realm free from foreign rule. 3. Education and training. Shivaji received both martial and academic training from an early age. A. Martial training, weapons, swordsmanship, archery, spearfighting. Horse riding, mastered equestrian skills from a young age. Guerrilla tactics, trained in hill warfare, ambushes, and hit-and-run attacks. B. Academic learning, learned Marathi and Sanskrit. Gained knowledge of Hindu scriptures, administration, politics, and geography. Exposed to Islamic court culture through his father's service under Muslim sultans. 4. Tutors and mentors. Shivaji's upbringing was guided by a group of loyal advisors and mentors, including Dadoji Kondeo, appointed by Shahaji as Shivaji's guardian and administrative mentor in Pune. He taught Shivaji statecraft, agriculture, and local administration. Kanhoji Jedhe and the Jedhe family, powerful Deshmukhs in the Maval region who later supported Shivaji militarily. Samarth Ramdas, a spiritual guide and advocate of nationalism and duty. He offered moral and religious encouragement to Shivaji's mission. 5. Early signs of leadership. Even as a teenager, Shivaji displayed leadership and strategic vision. At age 15, he began assembling a group of loyal companions and soldiers in the Maval region. He won the trust of local communities by protecting them from exploitation and banditry. He distributed booty fairly, which encouraged loyalty and recruitment. Focused on capturing forts, which became central to his military strategy. 6. First political actions. By the age of 16, Shivaji took control of the Pune region, managing local affairs. He restored temples, improved infrastructure, and offered justice, contrasting the negligence of the Deccan sultans. He won the loyalty of regional leaders and built alliances among Maratha clans. His first major fort conquest came in 1645, when he took Torna Fort near Pune, marking the beginning of his political ambitions. 7. Vision of Hindavi Swarajya. From an early age, Shivaji believed in the idea of Hindavi Swarajya, a political and spiritual vision of an independent Hindu kingdom in the Deccan. Swarajya was not based solely on religion but emphasized indigenous rule, justice, and cultural pride. Unlike other warrior leaders of the time, Shivaji emphasized governance, administration, and public welfare. He envisioned a kingdom where people of all backgrounds could coexist under just rule, free from oppressive foreign domination. 8. Political context. During Shivaji's youth, Bijapur Sultanate was losing grip over its territories and plagued by internal conflicts. Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan and later Aurangzeb intensified expansion into the Deccan. Regional Deshmukhs and Jagirdars were increasingly discontent with foreign rule. This created the perfect setting for a regional leader like Shivaji to assert independence. 9. Character and personality. Contemporary and historical sources highlight Shivaji's remarkable character. Courageous and charismatic, inspired devotion and loyalty. Ethical warrior, known for respecting women and religious institutions, clever diplomat, balanced aggression with tact. Deeply spiritual. His faith did not lead to intolerance and he respected all religions. Conclusion. Shivaji's early life was a fusion of noble values, political insight, and martial training, laying the foundation for one of India's greatest empires. The influence of his mother, local traditions, military training, and political exposure all combined to shape a leader who would challenge the mightiest empire of his time and carve a space for Maratha identity and Hindu self-rule. Part 4. The foundation of the Maratha state. Introduction. The early military successes and growing popularity of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in the Pune region gradually evolved into a vision for a sovereign Maratha state. This stage of his life marked the practical implementation of his Swarajya dream. It involved calculated fort captures, administration building, and a direct challenge to the Deccan sultanates, particularly the Adil Shahi Sultanate of Bijapur. 1. Political landscape in the Deccan, mid-17th century. During the 1640s and 1650s, the Deccan region was politically fragmented. Bijapur Sultanate controlled much of western and central Deccan. Golconda Sultanate had its base in Hyderabad. The Mughal Empire under Shah Jahan and later Aurangzeb began expanding southwards. Local Deshmukhs, Jagirdars, and chieftains often played these powers against each other. Shivaji took advantage of this fractured landscape by gradually asserting control over territories and forging his own path to independence. 2. First fort conquests. Shivaji's first major step towards Swarajya was the capture of forts, which were not only strategic military assets, but also symbols of territorial control. A. Torna Fort, 1645. Shivaji's first conquest at the age of 15 or 16. He renamed it Prachandagad, used its resources to fortify Rajgad, which became his first capital. B. Rajgad Fort, previously Muramdev, became the administrative and strategic base of Shivaji's operations, used as a royal residence and treasury. C. Other early captures. Kondana, later Sinagad, Purandar, Rohita, and Chakan followed. These forts established a defensive ring around Pune. These conquests were significant because they were done without declaring open war, and often by bribing or negotiating with local commanders. 3. Conflict with Bijapur Sultanate. Shivaji's rising power alarmed the Bijapur Sultanate. Shahaji Bhosale, still in Bijapur's service, was briefly arrested in an attempt to pressure Shivaji into submission. In 1649, Shahaji was released, but tensions remained. A. Bijapur's response. In 1659, the Adil Shah sent Afzal Khan, a seasoned general, to defeat Shivaji. This led to one of the most legendary encounters in Maratha history. 4. The Afzal Khan episode, 1659. Afzal Khan's mission was to trap and kill Shivaji under the guise of peace talks. Shivaji anticipated betrayal and arrived at the meeting in the dense forest of Pratapgarh, wearing concealed armor and armed with a bagnak, tiger claw, and wagnak, steel claw. When Afzal Khan attempted to strangle him, Shivaji retaliated swiftly, killing the general. Aftermath. Shivaji's army decisively defeated the Bijapuri forces at the Battle of Pratapgarh, captured significant war booty, arms, and horses. This victory elevated Shivaji's political and military status across the Deccan. 5. Expansion in Konkan and western Maharashtra. With Afzal Khan defeated, Shivaji rapidly expanded into Konkan coastal belt Kolhapur region, parts of Satara, Sangli, and Belgaum. He established new forts and fortified older ones, ensuring that each conquest was consolidated before moving to the next. 6. Naval aspirations begin. Though still in its infancy, Shivaji recognized the importance of coastal control, began constructing sea forts like Sindhudurg and Vijayadurg. These would later form the core of the Maratha Navy, an innovative initiative in Indian military history. 7. Administrative developments. Even while fighting wars, Shivaji laid the groundwork for a robust state administration, appointed Deshmukhs, Karkans, and Sabhasads to manage local governance, developed intelligence networks, Barkandazis, to monitor enemy movements. 8. Relations with the Mughals, pre-war phase. Initially, Shivaji avoided direct conflict with the Mughal Empire. He wrote respectful letters to Emperor Shah Jahan, focused on building strength and consolidating territory. However, Mughal interest in the Deccan and Shivaji's growing power would soon lead to confrontation. 9. Establishment of Maratha identity. By the early 1660s, Shivaji had built an independent kingdom in western India, established Maratha identity distinct from Muslim sultanates and Mughal administration, instituted cultural patronage, temple restoration, and religious freedom. His early victories helped ignite a sense of pride and unity among the fragmented Maratha clans. Conclusion: the foundation of the Maratha state was a product of strategic fort acquisition, clever diplomacy, military success, and visionary leadership. Shivaji's combination of warfare and state building was unlike any seen in contemporary India. By the mid-1660s, he was not just a rebel warlord. He was a rising king, poised to directly challenge the might of the Mughal Empire. Part 5. Confrontation with the Mughals and the Battle for Supremacy. Introduction. With a firm hold on his territories and the successful defeat of regional enemies like the Bijapur Sultanate, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj inevitably drew the attention of the Mughal Empire, then under the rule of Emperor Aurangzeb. The Maratha-Mughal conflict marked a critical chapter in Indian history. It was a clash not only of empires but also of ideologies: centralized Mughal imperialism versus regional self-rule, Swarajya. 1. Initial Mughal encounters. A. Shaista Khan's campaign, 1663. Aurangzeb appointed Shaista Khan, his maternal uncle, as the viceroy of the Deccan. Khan's mission was to crush Shivaji and reclaim lost Mughal territories. B. Mughal siege of Pune. Shaista Khan captured Pune and occupied Lal Mahal, Shivaji's childhood home. He established Mughal posts across the Deccan to restrict Shivaji's movement. 2. The surgical strike on Shaista Khan, 1663. In one of the most audacious acts in Indian history, Shivaji personally led a night raid into Lal Mahal with a handful of trusted men. In close combat, he injured Shaista Khan, who fled through a window, losing his fingers. The Mughal army was humiliated, and Shaista Khan was soon transferred to Bengal. Aftermath. Shivaji's legend spread beyond the Deccan. The act displayed tactical brilliance and daring. Even his critics acknowledged his guerrilla warfare expertise. 3. Sack of Surat, 1664. Shivaji next targeted Surat, a rich Mughal port city, justified the attack as revenge against Aurangzeb's oppression and to fund Swarajya. His forces plundered the city, including the port, merchants, and Mughal officials, collected vast amounts of wealth used for fortifications, soldier salaries, welfare of the kingdom. Surat's sack showcased the reach and boldness of the Maratha army, and it severely impacted Mughal prestige. 4. Treaty of Purandar, 1665. Following repeated defeats, the Mughals sent Mirza Raja Jai Singh, a seasoned Rajput general, to negotiate peace. Terms of the treaty. Shivaji ceded 23 of his forts to the Mughals, allowed to retain 12 forts, promised military assistance to the Mughals against Bijapur. His son Sambhaji was to serve under the Mughal banner. Shivaji, ever pragmatic, accepted this deal to gain time, rebuild his strength and assess Mughal strategies from within. 5. Visit to the Mughal court and escape, 1666. Shivaji visited the Mughal court in Agra, ostensibly to formalize his position as a vassal. The humiliation was placed under house arrest instead of being treated with royal respect. Aurangzeb underestimated his popularity and support. Shivaji and Sambhaji staged a dramatic escape by hiding in sweet baskets, or fruit crates. This legendary escape marked Shivaji's break from Mughal ties and full commitment to Swarajya. 6. Resurgence of Maratha power, 1666–1670. After his return, Shivaji revived his military campaigns, recaptured most of the forts he had ceded, re-established his administrative system, raided Mughal territories in Maharashtra and Karnataka. 7. Second sack of Surat in 1670. Shivaji attacked Surat again, proving the Mughal Empire's inability to secure its frontiers. More systematic and better organized than the first. Targeted Mughal assets and avoided harming civilians. Sent a message that Shivaji was back, stronger and more determined. 8. Battle of Sinagad, 1670. A key engagement in Shivaji's resurgence. Commanded by Tanaji Malusari, a loyal general, captured the fort from Udayban Rathod, a Mughal commander. Tanaji died during the battle. Shivaji famously said, "Gad ala pan Sinhagala." The fort is won, but the lion is lost. Sinagad became a symbol of Maratha valor and sacrifice. 9. Consolidation of power and coronation plans. By the early 1670s, Shivaji had re-established control over most of western Maharashtra. His forces ventured into Karnataka and Konkan with growing success. His dream of being recognized as a sovereign king was nearly realized. Preparations began for a formal Rajyabhishek, coronation. 10. Significance of the Mughal conflict. Marked the emergence of the Marathas as a pan-Indian power. Undermined Mughal control in the Deccan. Shivaji's successful resistance inspired other regional powers and weakened centralized imperialism. Conclusion. Shivaji Maharaj's strategic brilliance, coupled with his guerrilla tactics, diplomatic flexibility, and personal courage, enabled him to confront the greatest empire of the time and win. The Maratha-Mughal conflict transformed regional politics and gave birth to a state rooted in Swarajya, Dharma, and Shakti. Part 6. Coronation and the Formation of a Sovereign Maratha Kingdom. Introduction. By the late 1660s, Shivaji Maharaj had firmly reasserted his dominance across the Konkan and western Maharashtra. His military successes, administrative brilliance, and popular support called for a formal acknowledgement of his sovereignty. This vision culminated in the grand coronation ceremony of 1674, marking the beginning of the Hindu Swarajya in the Indian subcontinent, an event of massive historical and symbolic significance. 1. Why coronation was necessary. A. Political legitimacy. Shivaji's rise had been through military prowess and popular support, not hereditary right or Mughal appointment. A coronation by Brahminical rituals would cement his position as a legitimate Kshatriya king. B. Establishing sovereignty. Moving from a local chieftain to an independent monarch meant rejecting all suzerainty, especially that of the Mughal Empire. It sent a message that a Hindu kingdom could thrive in a time dominated by Islamic sultanates and empires. C. Religious symbolism. The coronation was a revival of ancient Hindu political traditions, aligning Shivaji with legendary Hindu rulers like Rama and Krishna. 2. Preparations for the Rajyabhishek. A selection of Raigad Fort, chosen as the capital and coronation site due to its strategic location, natural fortifications, cultural symbolism. B. Invitation of pandits and dignitaries. Over 50,000 people, including scholars, poets, kings, and commoners, attended. Pandit Gagaphat from Varanasi presided over the ritual. He confirmed Shivaji's Kshatriya ancestry, tracing lineage to the Sisodia Rajputs of Mewar. C. Ritual purification. A ceremonial bath in the sacred rivers was conducted using waters brought from 7 holy rivers of India. Symbolized the national scope of Shivaji's claim. 3. The Grand Coronation, June 6, 1674. The ceremony. Shivaji ascended the throne with the title Kshatriya Kulavatansa, Sinhasanadhishwar, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, the ornament of the Kshatriya clan, lord of the throne, Emperor Shivaji. Seated on a golden throne, he was anointed with sacred water and 5 nectars, Panchamrit. Royal symbols. Rajmudra, royal seal, was stamped on his coins and decrees. The Bagua, saffron flag, was hoisted as the imperial standard. Religious offerings. Donations were made to Brahmins, temples, and the poor. Cows, gold, land, and grains were distributed, or adoption of royal symbols and titles. Title: Chhatrapati, Lord of the Umbrella. Emblems: royal seal, sword of Bhavani, Bhavani Talwar, and tiger insignia. Motto inscribed on Rajmudra: this seal of Shivaji, the son of Shahaji, shines forth for the welfare of the people and destruction of the wicked. 5. Second coronation, October 1674. Due to astrological concerns raised by a few Brahmins who considered the first date inauspicious, a second Rajabhishek was performed in October 1674, reaffirmed his divine and political authority. 6. Structure of the Maratha Kingdom. Post-coronation administrative reforms. Shivaji introduced a centralized administrative system. Ashtapradhan Mandal, Council of 8 Ministers. Peshwa, Prime Minister. Amatya, Finance Minister. Mantri, Interior Minister. Senapati, Commander-in-Chief. Sachiv, Secretary. Nyayadish, Chief Justice. Panditrao, Religious Head. Sumant, Foreign Affairs. B. Revenue and Taxation. Reformed land revenue collection under the Rayatwari system. Collected Chauth and Sardashmukhi from neighboring states. Chauth earned 25% protection tax. Sardashmukhi earned 10% additional levy for Maratha supervision. 7. Military organization maintained a standing army of cavalry, Bargirs and Shiladars, infantry, Mavlas, navy for Konkan coast. Forts such as Raigad, Pratapgad, Sinhagad, and Torna were strengthened. 8. Cultural and religious patronage promoted Sanskrit and Marathi literature, supported bhakti poets and saints, restored and protected temples destroyed during invasions. Unified diverse Hindu castes under the Swarajya ideal. 9. Expansion into the south. Post-coronation, Shivaji turned toward southern India. Conquests in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu expanded Maratha influence, aimed to establish Maratha supremacy over regions formerly controlled by Bijapur and Golconda. 10. Legacy of the coronation. Shivaji's coronation was more than a ceremony. It was a political revolution. It gave birth to a new Hindu polity in medieval India. His state was inclusive, efficient, and morally driven. The coronation solidified his image as a national icon and spiritual leader. Conclusion. The Rajabhishek of 1674 was a watershed moment in Indian history. It formalized the rise of a people's king, who built a state based on justice, merit, and Dharma, rejecting the imperialism of the Delhi and Deccan sultanates. Shivaji Maharaj's coronation not only laid the foundation for the Maratha Empire, but also revived hope in indigenous governance and cultural pride. Part 7. Expansion and Consolidation. After Shivaji's death. Introduction. The death of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in 1680 left a power vacuum that could have fractured the newly formed Maratha Empire. However, despite early succession struggles and continued threats from the Mughals, especially Aurangzeb, the Marathas managed not only to survive, but expand. This phase saw the transformation from a regional kingdom to an empire in the making. 1. Succession struggles and family conflict. A. Shivaji's successors. Sambhaji, 1681-1689, Shivaji's elder son, took over amidst controversy, defeating internal rivals. Rajaram, the younger son, was supported by Shivaji's widow Soyarabai, leading to court intrigue. B. Conflict with Mughals. Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb launched an all-out war to crush the Marathas after Shivaji's death. Sambhaji was captured and brutally executed in 1689, which shocked the empire but did not break it. 2. Sambhaji's rule, 1681-1689, A. Defense against Mughal onslaught. Despite overwhelming odds, Sambhaji fought valiant defensive campaigns, raided Goa and supported Portuguese resistance against Mughals. B. Cultural contributions. A scholar and poet fluent in Sanskrit, Persian, and Marathi, promoted Hindu Dharma and Marathi literature even during warfare. C. Martyrdom. Captured by Mughals and tortured to death for refusing to convert to Islam, became a symbol of resistance and martyrdom. 3. Rajaram's reign and the shift to Jinji, 1689-1700. A. Escape to South India. Rajaram fled to the fort of Jinji, Tamil Nadu, after Sambhaji's death. Established a southern Maratha base protecting the empire's continuity. B. Decentralized resistance. Maratha generals like Santaji Ghorpade and Dhanaji Jadhav used guerrilla tactics. These mobile warfare units bled the Mughal armies across the Deccan. See Mughal decline. Aurangzeb was drawn into a long and exhausting war, 1681-1707, that depleted Mughal resources. Though Rajaram died in 1700, the groundwork for Maratha resurgence was laid. 4. Tarabai's leadership and role of women. A. Rise of Queen Tarabai. Rajaram's widow Tarabai acted as regent for her son Shivaji II. She became a de facto ruler and military strategist. B. Military campaigns. Tarabai led Maratha forces against Mughals from Kolhapur. Her resistance kept the Maratha flame alive during crisis years. 5. Fall of Aurangzeb and the Turning Tide, 1707. Aurangzeb died in 1707, ending the Mughal Golden Era. His prolonged Deccan campaign was unsuccessful and disastrous. A. Maratha reclamation. Forts, lands, and territories previously lost were systematically recaptured. The Maratha Empire emerged stronger in the power vacuum post-Aurangzeb. 6. Shahu Maharaj and the Era of Stability, 1707-1749. A release from Mughal captivity. Shahu, son of Sambhaji, was released by Mughals in 1707. Claimed the Maratha throne, leading to conflict with Tarabai, Kolhapur versus Satara factions. B. Rise of Peshwa system. Appointed Balaji Vishwanath Bhatt as Peshwa, Prime Minister. Peshwa authority grew stronger as they became the empire's real power holders. 7. Administrative consolidation under Shahu and Peshwas. A. Reorganization of governance. Creation of centralized taxation, record-keeping, and military recruitment. Expansion of Chauth and Sardashmukhi collection systems across India. B. Subadar system. Regional commanders or subadars governed provinces, allowed flexibility and quasi-autonomy under centralized control. 8. Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath, 1730-1720, acted as mediator between Marathas and Mughals, negotiated recognition of Shahu as Maratha king by Mughal Emperor Farrukhsiyar, obtained tax rights in Deccan, laying fiscal foundation for empire expansion. 9. Peshwa Baji Rao I and the militarization of the Maratha state. Baji Rao I's era would see the shift from regionalism to imperialism. His story continues in the next part, focusing on Maratha expansion across the Indian subcontinent. Conclusion. The period after Shivaji's death was one of immense resilience, restructuring, and revival. Despite Mughal aggression and internal strife, the Maratha state under Sambhaji, Rajaram, Tarabai, and Shahu held together and eventually grew stronger. This phase created the military and administrative framework for the empire's explosive expansion in the 18th century under the Peshwas. Part 8. The Era of the Peshwas, Balaji Vishwanath to Baji Rao Vaish, 1713-1740. Introduction. With the death of Aurangzeb and the accession of Shahu Maharaj, the Maratha Empire entered a new political phase. The royal family still held symbolic power, but the real authority began shifting to the Peshwas, prime ministers. This period, beginning with Balaji Vishwanath and reaching its height under Baji Rao I, marked a dramatic transformation of the Maratha state into a pan-Indian imperial force. 1. Rise of the Peshwas. A. Definition and origins. The term Peshwa referred to the prime minister or chief executive in the Maratha administration. Originally a subordinate post under the Chhatrapati, from 1713 onward the office grew in military and administrative influence. 2. Balaji Vishwanath, 1713-1720. A. Background. A Chitpavan Brahmin from Konkan, began as a clerk and later became an advisor to Shahu, appointed Peshwa in 1713. B. Administrative genius. United rival Maratha nobles under Shahu's leadership. Reduced infighting among various sardars and chiefs. C. Mughal alliance in the Delhi campaign 1719. Supported the Sayyid brothers in installing Farrukhsiyar on the Mughal throne. In return, secured, Chauhan Sardeshmukhi rights over Deccan. Recognition of Shahu as the legitimate Maratha king. D. Legacy died in 1720. Laid the foundation of a bureaucratic and military empire. Left behind a strong son, Bajirao the Mar III. Bajirao I, 1720-1740. The Maratha Napoleon A. Early life and appointment. Born in 1700, trained in warfare and administration. Became Peshwa at age 20 after his father's death. Known for his brilliance in strategy, rapid movement, and bold decision-making. 4. Military campaigns of Bajirao I. Northern expansion, fought against the declining Mughal Empire. Captured Malwa and established Maratha control in central India. Raided near Delhi in 1737, humiliating the Mughal Emperor Muhammad Shah. B. Campaigns in Gujarat. Subdued rival factions and tax collectors. Established permanent Maratha presence in Gujarat. C. Defeat of Nizam-ul-Mulk. The Battle of Palkad, 1728, was a masterstroke. Marathas defeated the powerful Nizam of Hyderabad using superior mobility and encirclement. Considered a classic in strategic warfare. D. Bundelkhand alliance. Allied with Chhatrapati, the Bundela king of Pana. Helped him defeat Mughal forces and gained rich territories as a reward. 5. Administration under Baji Rao. I encouraged revenue collection reforms. Appointed regional governors, Sardars, to expand control in distant areas. Introduced efficient tax collection systems in the new regions. 6. Political strategy believed in expansion through warfare and diplomacy. Avoided unnecessary alliances and focused on direct conquest. Focused on weakening the Mughals without triggering a massive coalition. 7. Cultural patronage. Though constantly at war, Bajirao supported construction of temples and religious schools, promotion of Marathi language and heritage. Married Mastani, a controversial love match that led to social tensions. 8. Challenges and opposition faced resistance from Rajas of Kolhapur, Nizam of Hyderabad. Portuguese and local Muslim rulers faced resistance from Rajas of Kolhapur, Nizam of Hyderabad. Opposition from Orthodox Brahmins over his marriage to Mastani. 9. Death and succession. Died suddenly in 1740 at Ravarkadi near Narmada River. Left behind a young son, Balaji Baji Rao, Nana Sahib. His military genius was never fully matched in future generations. 10. Legacy of Baji Rao. Extended the Maratha sphere of influence from Maharashtra to Delhi, Gujarat to Orissa. Known for never losing a major battle in his lifetime. Considered the true architect of Maratha Empire's imperial phase. Conclusion. The era of Balaji Vishwanath and Bajirao I witnessed the transformation of the Maratha state into a continental empire. Their blend of diplomacy, military skill, and strategic vision enabled the Marathas to challenge the Mughals and dominate large parts of India. With their efforts, the Maratha Confederacy was born, a loose yet powerful federation that would define the next era. Part 9. The Zenith of Maratha Power. Balaji Bajirao, Nana Sahib, and the Road to Panipat 1740-1761. Introduction. With the death of Bajirao the Fern in 1740, the reins of the Maratha Empire passed to his son, Balaji Bajirao, commonly known as Nana Sahib. Unlike his father, who was primarily a warrior, Nana Sahib was more inclined toward administration, diplomacy, and finance. However, under his leadership, the Maratha Empire reached its maximum territorial extent, stretching from the southern tip of India to the borders of Afghanistan. But this rapid expansion would eventually lead to the disastrous Third Battle of Panipat in 1761. 1. Accession of Nana Sahib, 1740. Nana Sahib was just 20 years old when he became Peshwa. Faced skepticism due to his youth and lack of battlefield experience. Focused on consolidating power, managing nobles, and continuing his father's legacy. 2. Administrative reforms. A. Bureaucratic expansion. Strengthened the Peshwa's bureaucracy in Pune. built a network of revenue collectors, administrators, and diplomats, created a central treasury to manage the increasing wealth of the empire. B. Infrastructure and urban growth. Pune transformed into the de facto capital of the Maratha Empire. Commissioned the construction of temples, gardens, water reservoirs, public works such as roads and rest houses. 3. Military expansion. A. Leadership of Maratha chiefs. Delegated military authority to capable commanders like Raghunath Rao, Malhar, Rao Holkar, Shinde, Scindia, family Gaikwads of Baroda. These leaders extended Maratha control to Punjab, Rajputana, Bengal, and the Deccan. B. Battles and campaigns. Marathas defeated the Nizam again at Battle of Udgir, 1760, subjugated Orissa and Bihar from Bengal Nawabs, captured Delhi in 1757 and established de facto control over the Mughal emperor. 4. Relations with the Mughal Empire. Kept the Mughal emperor under protection and extracted revenue. Marathas were the true political power in North India. 5. Conflict with Ahmad Shah Abdali. A background. Ahmad Shah Durrani, Abdali, the Afghan ruler, invaded India multiple times, 1748-1767. Maratha expansion in Punjab threatened his interests. In 1757, Abdali plundered Delhi and took away immense wealth. B. Maratha counterattack. Marathas under Raghunath Rao reclaimed Punjab and Lahore by 1758. Abdali saw this as an existential threat and planned a full-scale invasion. 6. Lead up to the Third Battle of Panipat. A. Alliance formation. Abdali formed an alliance with Shuja-ud-Dawla, Nawab of Oudh, Najib-ud-Dawla, Rohilla Afghan chief. Other Muslim rulers who feared Maratha dominance. B. Maratha response. Nana Sahib sent a massive army northward under Sadashivrao Bhau with over 100,000 soldiers, artillery, cavalry, and camp followers. Included Shivaji's grandson Peshwas Rao in the command. 7. The Third Battle of Panipat, January 14, 1761. A. The battle. Fought near Panipat in present-day Haryana. Marathas were surrounded and lacked proper supply lines. Despite early successes, they were cut off from reinforcements, betrayed by some allies, overwhelmed by Abdali's brutal tactics. B. Casualties and outcome. Estimated 100,000–150,000 Marathas killed. Vishwas Rao and other key leaders were slain, one of the bloodiest battles in Indian history. 8. Aftermath of Panipat. A. Collapse of Maratha morale. Massive loss of trained soldiers and generals. Empire descended into disorder and regional power struggles. B. Nana Sahib's decline. Devastated by the loss of his son Vishwas Rao, retired from active politics and died in 1761. C. Shift in leadership. Power vacuum led to internal rivalries among Maratha Sardars. Delhi was lost. The empire's dream of pan-Indian supremacy was shattered, for the time being. 9. Significance of the period. The Maratha Empire had reached its greatest geographic extent by 1760, controlled almost all of the Indian subcontinent except parts of Bengal and the far south. However, the centralization of power and overextension became fatal. 10. Legacy of Nana Sahib. His tenure was marked by administrative excellence, military expansion, cultural patronage. He failed, however, to foresee the limits of military expansion without securing alliances and logistics. Conclusion. Balaji Bajirao's era symbolized the apex of Maratha ambition and also its greatest tragedy. The Third Battle of Panipat was a turning point, not just for the Marathas but for Indian history. Though the empire would revive, it would never again wield the same continental influence. It marked the end of a centralized Maratha state and the beginning of a confederate structure under regional dynasties. Part 10. Maratha Confederacy. Rise of Holkar, Scindia, Bhonsle, and Gaikwad, 1761–1800. Introduction. The catastrophic loss at the Third Battle of Panipat, 1761, shattered centralized Maratha authority. However, the Maratha spirit endured. From the ashes of defeat emerged a confederate structure led by powerful regional dynasties: Holkars of Indore, Scindias of Gwalior, Gaikwads of Baroda, and Bhonsles of Nagpur. Under their leadership, the Marathas revived militarily, challenged British expansion, and reasserted dominance in large parts of India. 1. From empire to confederacy. After Nana Sahib's death, no single leader could claim the entire empire. The Peshwa remained the nominal head, but real power shifted to regional chieftains. The structure now resembled a confederacy with Peshwa in Pune. Holkars, Scindias, Bhonsles, and Gaikwads managing their own territories. 2. The new Peshwa, Madhavrao born 1761-1772, a restoration of pride, became Peshwa at age 16 after the Panipat debacle, known for administrative brilliance, military reforms, diplomatic skill. B. Rebuilding the Maratha army, reorganized army with modern training, reclaimed territories lost to Abdali and other invaders. C. Relations with the British maintained cautious engagement with the East India Company, recognized their growing power in Bengal. 3. Key regional powers in the Confederacy. A. Holkars of Indore. Founded by Malhar Rao Holkar, one of the original lieutenants of Baji Rao Fur, post-Panipat, Holkars focused on Malwa, Rajasthan, and northern campaigns. Ahilyabai Holkar, widow of Malhar Rao's son, ruled Indore with exceptional wisdom and justice. 1767-1795. Built temples, roads, and ghats across India, notably in Varanasi Maheshwar. B. Scindias of Gwalior. Ranoji Scindia established the dynasty. It peaked under Mahaji Scindia. Mahaji became the de facto ruler of North India, controlling Delhi and acting as protector of the Mughal emperor. Known for diplomatic success. Engagement with French officers to modernize the army, notably Benoit de Boigne, revived Maratha influence in North India by 1780s. See Bhonsles of Nagpur. Controlled much of central India, Chhattisgarh, and parts of Odisha. Focused on raids into Bengal and pressure on the British. Regular clashes with the British East India Company around the eastern frontier. D. Gaikwads of Baroda. Maintained rule over Gujarat with capital in Baroda, Vadodara. Mostly stayed neutral in larger conflicts. Signed early treaties with the British for autonomy and protection. Maratha Revival, 1761-1795, a military campaigns. Marathas reconquered Delhi, Rajasthan, Bundelkhand, eastern UP. Repelled attacks by Afghans, Rohillas, and Nawabs. B. Diplomatic engagements. Formed temporary alliances with Hyder Ali of Mysore and Nizam of Hyderabad. Balanced power dynamics with both the British and French in India. 5. Decline of the Peshwa's central power. After Madhavrau's death in 1772, Peshwa power declined. His brother Narayan Rao was assassinated. His infant son Madhavrao II became Peshwa under regency of Nana Fadnavis and Number 6. Nana Fadnavis and the Pune court, a political strategist, acted as regent and protector of Maratha interest from 1770 to 1800, maintained a delicate balance between Maratha chiefs and foreign powers. Skilled administrator and patron of the arts. B. Challenges internal divisions, British encroachment in Bengal and western coast. Rise of Tipu Sultan in Mysore. 7. Maratha conflicts with Mysore. Tensions with Hyder Ali and later Tipu Sultan, allied with British and Nizam against Mysore in the Anglo-Mysore Wars. Marathas extracted tribute and claimed lost territories but failed to dominate Mysore. 8. Economic revival, Confederacy restored. Trade routes. Agricultural revenue systems, salt and textile trade. Cities like Pune, Indore, and Gwalior flourished culturally and economically. 9. Rise of the British threat. British strengthened after Battle of Plassey, 1757, Battle of Buxar, 1764. Maratha chiefs recognized the need to confront the East India Company. Early treaties and alliances started surfacing. 10. Prelude to conflict. The stage is set. Internal rivalries increased between Scindias versus Holkars, Peshwa versus Nana Fadnavis. British East India Company exploited these divisions. Led to the First Anglo-Maratha War, 1775-1782, which the Marathas won but barely. Conclusion: The post-Panipat period saw a remarkable Maratha resurgence. Though no longer centralized, the Confederacy under strong regional powers restored prestige, revived economic networks, and challenged both Indian and foreign rivals. Yet the seeds of internal division and the growing shadow of the British would soon culminate in full-scale wars that would shape the next chapter in the Maratha story. Part 11. The Anglo-Maratha Wars and the Fall of the Maratha Confederacy, 1800–1818. Introduction. The early 19th century marked a turning point in Indian history. The British East India Company, having subdued Bengal, Mysore, and Hyderabad, now turned its sights on the Maratha Confederacy, the last major Indian power that could challenge its authority. What followed were three decisive conflicts, known as the Anglo-Maratha Wars, that ultimately led to the dismantling of the Maratha Empire and the consolidation of British power across India. 1. Background to the conflict. The Maratha Confederacy was weakened by internal rivalries and power struggles. The death of Nana Fadnavis in 1800 removed a key stabilizing force. Yashwantrao Holkar and Daulat Rao Scindia entered into civil war. The Peshwa Bajirao II increasingly lost legitimacy and support. 2. First Anglo-Maratha War, 1775–1782. Recap. Although this war predates the 19th century, its outcome set the stage. It was caused by a succession dispute after Peshwa Madhavrao I's death. British-supported Raghunath Rao Rakhoba, Marathas backed Madhavrao II. Marathas ultimately won under Mahaji Scindia. Treaty of Salbai 1782 ended the war, with Maratha control intact. 3. Second Anglo-Maratha War, 1803–1805. A. Causes: civil war among Maratha leaders, especially between Holkars and Scindias. Peshwa Bajirao II, defeated by Yashwantrao Holkar, fled to British protection. Signed the Treaty of Bassein, 1802, placing Marathas under British subsidiary alliance. B. Key battles. 1. Battle of Assaye, 1803. Fought between Arthur Wellesley, later Duke of Wellington, and Scindia Holkar combined forces. British won despite being outnumbered. Battle of Argyan and Gawilgar. British defeated Bhonsle of Nagpur, forced him into submission. Battle of Laswari, 1803. General Lake defeated Daulat Rao Scindia. See outcomes: major Maratha powers forced to sign subsidiary treaties. Scindia lost control of Delhi and western India. Bhonsles and Gaekwads entered British protection. 4. Aftermath and British strategy. British avoided direct annexation but installed residents at Maratha courts. Maratha sovereignty was deeply eroded. British policy was to divide and control, strengthen Peshwa as a puppet, isolate Holkars and Scindias. 5. Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1817–1818. A. Immediate cause: Peshwa Bajirao II, humiliated and sidelined, planned a rebellion, joined hands with Bhonsle of Nagpur, Holkar of Indore, and other factions, aimed to revive Maratha independence. B. Major campaigns. 1. Battle of Khadki, 1817. Near Pune, British forces defeated the Peshwa. Battle of Sitabuldi, 1817. Fought in Nagpur, British held fort against Bhonsle's forces. Battle of Mahidpur, 1817. Holkars decisively defeated by General Malcolm. Capture of Peshwa, Bajirao II surrendered in 1818. C. British response: British annexed Pune, Indore, Nagpur. Peshwa abolished and pensioned off to Bithur near Kanpur. 6. The end of the Maratha Confederacy. Maratha power was completely dismantled. Only Gaekwad of Baroda retained some autonomy as a British protectorate. Holkar and Scindia ruled under British oversight with reduced powers. Company Raj now extended from Bengal to Punjab and south to the Deccan. 7. Fate of the Maratha leadership. A. Peshwa Bajirao II, pensioned by the British. Lived a quiet life at Bithur. His adopted son, Nana Sahib, would later rise during the 1857 rebellion. B. Yashwantrao Holkar tried to rally resistance but failed. Signed the Treaty of Mysore in 1818. C. Daulat Rao Scindia accepted British suzerainty. Continued as ruler of Gwalior under British surveillance. D. Bhonsle of Nagpur, stripped of power and territory. Nagpur brought under British administration. 8. British consolidation. British established the Bombay Presidency and parts of central provinces, Maratha territory now part of Company India. Political, economic, and military reforms began under colonial rule. 9. Cultural and psychological impact. The defeat demoralized many Maratha loyalists, shifted focus from warrior traditions to bureaucracy, education, and reform, sparked a cultural renaissance in Maharashtra in the mid-19th century. 10. Legacy. Though the Maratha Empire ended, its legacy lived on in resistance to colonialism, e.g., Rani Lakshmibai Tatya Tope, revival of regional pride and identity, inspiration for nationalist movements in 20th century India. Conclusion. The Anglo-Maratha Wars brought an end to one of India's most formidable indigenous empires. The Marathas, who had once controlled vast parts of the subcontinent, succumbed not to military inferiority but to internal disunity and British diplomacy. Yet the memory of Maratha bravery, leadership, and governance continues to inspire generations even today. Part 12. Administrative Structure and Governance in the Maratha Empire. Introduction. The Maratha Empire, though born from military conquest, was not merely a warrior state. Under Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and his successors, a sophisticated and decentralized system of governance was developed. It combined traditional Hindu administrative elements with innovative policies suited to a diverse and dynamic realm. This structure would be refined and expanded by later Maratha leaders such as the Peshwas, resulting in a unique administrative model that governed vast territories and populations. 1. Foundations laid by Shivaji Maharaj. A. Ashtapradhan Mandal, Council of 8 Ministers. Shivaji created a central administrative council consisting of 8 senior officials, each entrusted with a specific department. Peshwa, Prime Minister, headed civil administration. Amatya, Finance Minister. Sachiv, Secretary, Documentation and Royal Correspondence. Mantri, Internal Intelligence and Record Keeping. Senapati, Commander-in-Chief of the Army. Sumant, Foreign Minister or Diplomat. Nyayadish, Chief Justice. Panditrao, Head of Religious and Charitable Affairs. Each of these officers was directly accountable to the king and held both civil and military responsibilities in their domains. 2. Role of the Peshwa. A. Rise in power. Initially subordinate to the king, the Peshwa became the de facto head of the empire under Balaji Vishwanath and Bajirao III. Based in Pune, the Peshwas oversaw military campaigns, state finances, and foreign diplomacy. B. Centralized yet delegated authority. Although headquartered in Pune, they delegated authority to Maratha Sardars, chiefs like Holkars, Scindias, and Gaikwads. Coordination through letters and emissaries maintained unity. 3. Provincial administration. The empire was divided into provinces and districts, administered by loyal commanders or hereditary nobles. A. Prants and Subhas, large divisions called Prants or Subhas. Managed by Subhadars appointed by the king or Peshwa, Subhadars were responsible for tax collection, law enforcement, and recruitment. B. Paraganas and villages. Subhas further divided into paraganas, clusters of villages. Managed by Deshmukhs or local zamindars. Village heads, patils, and accountants, Kulkarni, managed records and daily governance. 4. Revenue system. A. Chauth and Sardashmukhi. Chauth, 25%. Collected from non-Maratha regions in exchange for protection. Sardashmukhi, 10%. An additional tax claimed by the king as hereditary rights. B. Regular land revenue. Land assessment based on fertility, crop yield, and irrigation. Cash and grain collection depending on local availability. Shivaji introduced measures to prevent peasant exploitation. 5. Military administration. A. Recruitment and composition. Cavalry, infantry, and artillery formed the core of the Maratha army. Recruited from Maratha clans, Deccan warriors, and even foreign mercenaries. B. Fort system. Forts like Raigad, Sinhagad, Pratapgad were critical for defense, managed by Kiladars, fort commanders. Strict discipline and supplies management. C. Saranjami system. Military officers rewarded with land grants, saranjam for services. Holders had to maintain troops from this income. 6. Judicial system. A. Civil and criminal justice. Local justice handled by village assemblies and elders. Serious crimes adjudicated by Nyayadhish or appointed judges. B. Hindu law. Decisions based on Dharma Shastra and customary law. Panditrao advised the court on religious matters. 7. Foreign policy and diplomacy. Sumant, foreign minister, managed relations with Mughals, Rajputs, Nizam, British and Portuguese. Use of diplomatic marriages, emissaries, and letters of alliance. 8. Religious and cultural governance. A. Religious tolerance. Despite being a Hindu state, the Marathas practiced religious tolerance. Muslim officials served in various capacities. Endowments made to temples, mosques, and scholars. B. Patronage of arts, support for Marathi, Sanskrit, and Persian literature. Promotion of architecture, music, and education in temple towns and forts. 9. Economy and commerce. A. Trade encouragement. Encouraged internal and foreign trade, especially through Konkan ports, developed customs houses, trade routes, and minted currency. B. Infrastructure. Road construction, market regulation, and fort building helped economy grow. Pune emerged as a commercial and cultural hub. 10. Decentralization and autonomy of chiefs. Chiefs like Holkar, Scindia, Bonsle, and Gaikwad managed semi-autonomous regions, paid tribute and provided troops to the Peshwa, often acted independently in foreign affairs and wars, creating friction. 11. Administrative challenges, lack of a permanent bureaucracy. Dependency on hereditary nobles led to corruption and inefficiency. No standing army. Reliance on feudal levies made defense unpredictable. Disunity among chiefs led to weak central control, especially after Peshwa Balaji Bajirao's death. 12. Comparison with Mughal and British systems. Feature Maratha Empire, Mughal Empire, British India. Revenue collection, mixed cash grain, Zamindari and Jagirdari Rayotwari. Zamindari central authority, semi-centralized, highly centralized judicial system based on Dharma Shastra Islamic law, Sharia, English Indian laws, foreign policy, active diplomacy, military superiority, gunboat diplomacy. Conclusion. The Maratha administrative system was a blend of traditional Indian governance and practical innovations tailored to a confederate state. While it allowed rapid expansion and local flexibility, it lacked the institutional rigidity needed to sustain a pan-Indian empire. Nevertheless, it laid a lasting foundation for cultural and political development in Maharashtra and beyond. The emphasis on self-rule, regional pride, and military excellence would continue to inspire later Indian movements against colonialism. Part 13. Cultural Achievements and Legacy of the Maratha Empire. Introduction. While the Marathas are primarily remembered for their military prowess and political expansion, their contribution to Indian art, literature, architecture, religion, and culture is equally profound. The Maratha era saw a resurgence of regional identity, the promotion of vernacular traditions, and the preservation of Hindu culture during a time of intense Islamic and later colonial influence. 1. Revival and promotion of Hindu culture. A. Patronage of temples. Maratha rulers generously supported temple construction, restoration, and daily rituals across India, especially in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Varanasi. Shivaji Maharaj personally funded and protected temples such as Bhavani Temple at Tuljapur, Vithoba Temple at Pandharpur, and Kashi Vishwanath in Varanasi. Temple building became a political as well as spiritual act, symbolizing resistance to foreign rule. B. Support for Brahmanical institutions. Endowments made to Sanskrit schools, Pathshalas, Mathas, and Vedic scholars. Revived Upanishadic and Puranic learning, especially in Pune, Nashik, and Banaras. 2. Language and literature. A rise of Marathi language. The Marathas championed Marathi as a language of administration, religion, and literature. Replaced Persian in many regions where they held sway. Encouraged poetry, devotional literature, and historical chronicles in Marathi. B. Notable literary works. Bhakti poets like Tukaram, Samarth Ramdas and Namdev had their works widely copied and distributed. Chronicles such as Bakar literature narrated Maratha history and valor, e.g., Subhasad Bakhar, Pant Pratinidhi Bakhar. See Sanskrit and Persian scholarship. Though Persian was retained for diplomacy, Sanskrit scholarship flourished in religious and philosophical centers. Astrological, medical, and ritual texts were produced and preserved. 3. Art and architecture. A. Fort architecture. Marathas are best known for building forts in hill ranges with strategic military and symbolic value. Famous examples include Raigad Fort, capital of Shivaji's empire, Sinhagad, Pratapgad, Rajgad, and Shivneri. Designed with defensive ingenuity using natural terrain, strong bastions, and narrow entrances. B. Temple architecture. While maintaining older styles, Maratha temples introduced wooden pillars and beams, intricate stucco and lime plaster decoration, simple shikara spire structures. Examples: Parvati Temple, Pune Someshwar Temple, Saswad. Temples in Thanjavur supported by Bonsle rulers. C. Urban development. Under the Peshwas, Pune transformed into a thriving administrative, cultural, and educational hub. Developed wadas, traditional mansions, markets, ghats, and water systems. 4. Music and performing arts. A. Patronage of classical music. Encouraged Hindustani classical music, especially Drupad and Khyal forms. Courts of Holkars, Indore, Scindias, Gwalior, and Gekwads, Baroda, were major musical centers. Tansen's descendants served under Maratha patrons. B. Natya Sangeet and folk traditions. Development of Sangeet Natak musical theater in Marathi. Supported Kirtan, Parud, Lavani, and Tamasha, folk forms expressing social themes and spiritual messages. Female performers like Bayabai and male artists like Bal Gandharva, later period, had their roots in Maratha culture. 5. Social reform and Bhakti movement. A. Bhakti Renaissance. Bhakti saints during and prior to the Maratha Empire laid the groundwork for social unity beyond caste. Shivaji himself was influenced by Samarth Ramdas, who promoted duty, discipline, and devotion. B. Women's roles. Women like Jijabai, Shivaji's mother, Tarabai, and Ahilyabai Holkar played significant administrative and cultural roles. Ahilyabai's reign in Malwa is remembered for temple restoration, public works, and justice. 6. Education and intellectual pursuits. Emphasis on traditional Gurukula education and scriptural study. Manuscript copying centers preserved ancient texts. Astronomy, Ayurveda, and Dharma Shastra were major fields of study. 7. Religious tolerance and syncretism. Despite being a Hindu power, the Marathas showed religious inclusiveness. Employed Muslim officers, protected Sufi shrines, and allowed free worship. Maintained relations with Sikh gurus, Rajputs, and even Portuguese missionaries in some regions. 8. Cultural influence across India. A. North India. Maratha protection of Kashi, Mathura, Ayodhya helped revive religious and cultural life after Mughal persecution. B. South India. Bhonsles of Thanjavur supported Carnatic music, Tamil scholarship, and built temples and ghats, integrated local traditions with Maratha rituals. C. Western and Central India. Gaikwads in Baroda and Holkars in Indore became great cultural patrons, supported printing presses, translation projects, and art schools in the Dai. 19th century, 9 lasting legacy. The Marathas preserved and promoted Hindu culture during Islamic and colonial dominance, inspired nationalistic pride, leading to the Indian freedom movement in later centuries. Their contribution to literature, architecture, social reform, and music remains visible in Maharashtra's identity today. Conclusion. The Maratha Empire was not only a military and political force, but also a cultural catalyst that bridged India's medieval and modern eras. Through their revival of Hindu traditions, promotion of regional arts, inclusive governance, and social reform, the Marathas left a rich and enduring legacy. Their cultural achievements continue to resonate in Indian consciousness, not just in monuments or manuscripts, but in the spirit of resilience, pride, and unity they inspired. Part 14. The military campaigns and warfare tactics of the Marathas. Introduction. The Maratha Empire, renowned for its rapid expansion across the Indian subcontinent, was deeply rooted in strategic military innovations. Its success was not just due to sheer force, but also its mastery in guerrilla warfare, fort-based defenses, mobility, and a deep understanding of terrain. From Shivaji's defensive maneuvers to the large-scale offensives of the Peshwas, Maratha military campaigns significantly influenced the power dynamics of medieval and early modern India. 1. Origins of Maratha military strength. A. Geography and guerrilla warfare. The rugged Sahyadri Hills, Western Ghats, shaped Maratha military thinking. Natural forts and forests made traditional large armies ineffective. Shivaji pioneered the use of hit-and-run and ambush tactics known as ganimikava. B. Social base and recruitment. Relied on Maratha peasantry, local hill tribes, and small landed warriors, Patals and Deshmukhs. Integrated loyalty and mobility over mercenary traditions. Created a sense of national duty and Hindu pride among recruits. 2. Shivaji Maharaj's military innovations. A. Fort-centric strategy. Built or captured over 300 forts across Maharashtra and Karnataka. Forts like Raigad, Rajgad, Sinagad, and Pratapgad served as administrative hubs, troop garrisons, supply depots. Forts were strategically placed on hilltops, cliffs, or seacoasts. B. Cavalry supremacy. Maintained a highly mobile light cavalry, ideal for quick raids. The army was trained for fast attacks, long marches, and dispersal before enemy reinforcement. C. Naval power. Shivaji established India's first modern navy on the Konkan coast. Built fortified sea bases at Sindhudurg and Vijayadurg. Resisted the Portuguese, city naval forces, and later the English. D. Espionage and intelligence. Deployed spies, Bahir Janaik and others, to infiltrate enemy lines. Gained intelligence before every major assault, ensuring minimal loss. 3. Expansion under the Peshwas. A. Large-scale campaigns. Peshwas like Baji Rao I carried out multi-front campaigns. Delhi Expedition, 1737, Malwa and Gujarat consolidation raids in Bengal, and Orissa B combined arms integrated infantry, artillery, and cavalry. Employed mercenary gunners, French and Portuguese, to train forces. Adopted European field artillery gradually in the 18th century. C. Quick mobilization. Maintained march-ready armies with mobile tents and decentralized supply systems. Used river transport and horse relays for speed. D. Political military alliances. Aligned with Rajputs, Jats, Nizam, and Sikhs for campaigns. Disrupted Mughal command structures by forming alliances with local governors. 4. Notable military campaigns. A. Against Mughals. Shivaji's plundering of Shaista Khan's camp and surprise escape from Agra. Baji Rao I's defeat of Mughal Wazir and control over Delhi's outskirts. Capture of Malwa, Bundelkhand, and repeated incursions into Doab. B. Third Battle of Panipat, 1761. Marathas under Sadashivrao Bhau marched to North India to check Ahmad Shah Abdali. Despite initial victories, lost due to overextended supply lines, betrayal by allies, underestimation of Afghan strategy. The loss halted northward expansion, but Marathas recovered in a few decades. C. Southern campaigns. Defeated Mysore rulers and annexed large parts of Karnataka. Peshwas took Thanjavur under Bhonsles, influencing Tamil politics. Resisted and sometimes allied with Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. 5. Command structure and military administration. A. Leadership kings, e.g. Shivaji, Peshwas, and generals like Holkars, Scindias, Gayakwads, emphasized merit-based promotions and field leadership. B. Sardars and Jagirdars. Warriors given Jagirs, land revenue rights in exchange for military service. Created a semi-feudal but mobile command system. C. Pay and discipline salaries paid via cash or land. Strict codes for discipline and theft. Soldiers could be dismissed for cowardice or insubordination. 6. Defensive tactics retreated into hills or forts when outnumbered, harassed enemies with constant raids on supply lines, refused pitched battles unless victory was certain. 7. Naval warfare. Fought against Cities of Janjira, Portuguese, Dutch, and British navies, controlled trade routes along Konkan and Malabar coast for decades, used small, fast-moving ships, gurabs, galabats, in swarms. 8. Evolution of warfare. Late Maratha period. A. European influence. Holkar Scindia and Gaekwad armies trained by French officers like Benoit de Boigny built modern infantry and artillery divisions. Employed field drills, battalion formations, and military training schools. B. Anglo-Maratha Wars. British victories due to superior artillery and logistics division among Maratha chiefs. Treaty betrayals and misinformation battles. Like Asaye, Wadgaon, and Khadki showed Maratha resistance despite disadvantages. 9. Maratha warfare legacy. Introduced guerrilla warfare as state policy, long before modern insurgencies, showed how regional powers could challenge central empires. Their strategies were later studied by freedom fighters, especially Shivaji's model of leadership and warfare. Conclusion: the military might of the Maratha Empire was not built solely on numbers or weapons, but on tactical brilliance, mobility, and an unbreakable will to resist domination. Their campaigns reshaped Indian geopolitics and inspired future movements for self-rule. Even in defeat, the Marathas redefined Indian warfare, leaving a legacy of resilience, innovation, and unmatched strategic acumen. Part 15. Administration and Governance under the Maratha Empire. Introduction. The Maratha Empire was not just a military powerhouse. It also developed a robust and adaptable system of governance. From Shivaji's central administration to the decentralized Peshwa era and the regional controls of powerful Maratha houses, the empire combined traditional Indian political practices with pragmatic innovations. This administrative structure allowed the Marathas to effectively govern vast and diverse territories across the Indian subcontinent. 1. Administrative philosophy. Inspired by ancient Hindu traditions, Deccan Sultanate practices, and Mughal administration, emphasized efficiency, local engagement, justice, and revenue maximization. Governance was seen as Dharma, a sacred duty. 2. Shivaji Maharaj's centralized administration. A. Ashta Pradhan Mandal, Council of 8 Ministers. Shivaji established a cabinet of 8 ministers, each with defined responsibilities. 1. Peshwa, Prime Minister, handled internal and external affairs. 2. Amatya, Finance Minister. 3. Sachiv, Secretary, managed correspondence and royal edicts. 4. Mantri, Chronicler and Intelligence Officer. 5. Senapati, Commander-in-Chief of the Army. 6. Sumant, Foreign Affairs and Diplomatic Relations. 7. Nyayadish, Chief Justice, oversaw civil and criminal law. 8. Panditrao, Religious and Charitable Affairs. This structure created checks and balances and prevented power concentration. 3. Provinces and local administration. A. Territorial division. The empire was divided into provinces, subas or prants. Provinces were subdivided into parganas and mausas, villages. B. Local officers. Deshmukhs and Deshpandes were responsible for tax collection, policing, and land administration. Village patels managed agricultural land disputes and local issues. Kulkarni maintained land records and accounts at village level. 4. Revenue system. Chauth and Sardeshmukhi. Chauth 25% and Sardeshmukhi 10%. Were taxes collected from non-Maratha regions. These levies were originally military tributes and evolved into administrative revenue. B. Land revenue system, based on assessment of crop yield, soil type, and irrigation. Officers known as Karkuns and Jamindars helped collect land revenue. Shivaji's system was non-exploitative, encouraging agricultural productivity. C. Revenue record keeping. Detailed documentation of land holdings, irrigation, and taxation. Introduced measuring rods, Kathi system, and regular surveys. 5. Judicial system. Justice administered according to Hindu Dharma Shastras and customary law. In Muslim-dominated regions, Sharia courts were allowed to continue. Nyayadish led the judicial system. Final appeals went to the Chhatrapati or Peshwa. 6. Military administration. Senapati oversaw all military operations. Each region maintained a local force under regional leaders. Troops were paid in cash, land grants, or through a share in loot. Forts were self-governing under Kiladars, fort commanders. 7. Fiscal policies promoted trade and agriculture to expand revenue, reduce corruption through auditing of accounts, offered tax incentives for forest clearing, irrigation, and urbanization. 8. Civil services and officials. Appointments were merit-based in early periods but later became hereditary. Officials were transferred periodically to prevent power buildup. Corrupt or inefficient officers were punished or dismissed. 9. Religious and cultural policy. Shivaji followed a policy of religious tolerance, respected Muslim scholars, protected mosques, and gave grants to Hindu temples and gurukuls. Peshwas, while orthodox, also patronized arts, music, and literature. 10. Peshwa-era administration, a rise of bureaucracy. Under the Peshwas, especially Balaji Vishwanath and Baji Rao I, bureaucracy became stronger. Appointed subadars and sar-subadars in newly conquered areas. B. Decentralization of power. Regional powers like Holkars, Indore, Scindias, Gwalior, Gaikwads, Baroda, and Bhonsles, Nagpur, ran their administration semi-independently but acknowledged Peshwa authority. C. Balutadari system, a village-based occupational division of labor. Hereditary service groups, e.g., blacksmiths, barbers, priests, potters, supported agriculture and society, paid in grain and goods, not cash. 11. Diplomacy and governance. Used diplomacy as a tool of governance, not just war. Maintained embassies in Mughal court, Rajputana, Hyderabad, and later Europeans. Signed treaties with British, French, and Portuguese, balancing rival powers. 12. Communication and intelligence. Relied on runners, horses, and pigeon systems for communication. Built a robust spy network across regions. Used coded language and secret scripts for sensitive correspondence. 13. Urban and rural governance. Coded language, secret scripts, sensitive correspondence. Cities like Pune, Satara, Kolhapur, and Nagpur were administrative and commercial hubs. Encouraged temple construction, sarais, rest houses, and bazaar regulation. Promoted irrigation tanks, roads, and wells in villages. 14. Challenges in governance. With vast territory came issues of communication, corruption, and regional autonomy. Post-Panipat, some regional leaders grew powerful and ignored Peshwa commands. The rise of British and other Europeans disrupted internal administration and trade. 15. Legacy of Maratha administration. Inspired administrative reforms in British India, particularly in revenue and local governance. Shivaji's model influenced later Indian leaders like Tilak and Savarkar. Local self-governance, rural autonomy, and decentralized revenue collection remained a blueprint for Indian polity well into modern times. Conclusion. The administration of the Maratha Empire blended military effectiveness with governance efficiency, deeply rooted in local traditions and practical needs. Despite internal conflicts and external threats, the Maratha rulers managed to sustain a vast empire through innovative revenue systems, decentralized control, and cultural integration. Their governance model laid the foundation for modern Indian administrative frameworks and remains a testament to their statecraft. Part 16. Trade, Economy, and Commerce in the Maratha Empire Introduction. The Maratha Empire, though known for its military and political prowess, also fostered a robust and dynamic economy. Its economic foundation rested on agriculture, inland and coastal trade, artisanal production, and an evolving monetary system. The Marathas built on the legacy of previous Indian empires and adapted to both indigenous practices and the shifting global trade dynamics introduced by European colonial powers. 1. Agrarian economy. The backbone. A. Land ownership and use. Agriculture was the primary occupation, and land was the chief source of revenue. Cultivators owned or leased land. Tenant farming and sharecropping were common. Wetland, irrigated, and dryland farming had separate tax assessments. B. Crops grown. Staple crops: rice, wheat, jowar, bajra, and barley. Cash crops: sugarcane, cotton, indigo, tobacco, and turmeric. Promoted horticulture in Maharashtra and spice cultivation in coastal areas. C. Irrigation and technology. built tanks, wells, canals, and bunds to support farming. Encouraged use of traditional plows, water wheels, and ox-drawn mills. 2. Taxation and economic burden. Chowth and Sardashmukhi. Taxes levied on conquered territories, especially non-Maratha regions, became an essential part of the imperial war economy. B. Land revenue. Taxation ranged between 20% to 33% of produce, depending on yield and region. Introduced revenue officers, emils, karkans, to reduce corruption. C. Trade levies. Internal customs and transit taxes collected at ghats, ports, and market towns. Traders sometimes negotiated charters to reduce harassment. 3. Artisanal and handicraft industry, A. Village industry. Each village had weavers, potters, smiths, carpenters, cobblers, and other artisans under the balutadari system. Goods were bartered for grain or sold in weekly markets, hats. B. Urban craft centers. Pune, Kolhapur, Satara, and Burhanpur emerged as hubs for textiles, metalwork, leather goods, and weapon production. Encouraged silk weaving, cotton ginning, dyeing, and sugar processing. C. Guilds and occupational groups. Artisans formed jati-based guilds regulating quality, pricing, and training. 4. Internal trade networks. A. Trade routes. Maratha territory spanned from Gujarat to Orissa, facilitating land-based trade. Controlled important routes like the Dakshinapatha, connecting Deccan with North and South India. B. Market system. Mandas, wholesale markets, and hats allowed grain, cloth, and livestock trade. Merchants were protected by state troops or issued trade permits. C. Goods traded. Salt, ghee, jaggery, oil, metals, spices, betel nut, and horses were common goods. Long-distance trade involved textiles, opium, and handicrafts. 5. Foreign trade and maritime economy. A. Coastal control. Important ports: Dabhol, Chaul, Rajapur, Karwar, and Bassein. Marathas contended with the Portuguese, Dutch, French, and British for trade control. B. Angre naval power. Under Kanhoji Angre, Marathas developed a powerful navy to control sea trade and protect shipping, collected marine tolls, and resisted European naval dominance. C. Export and import. Exports: cotton textiles, sugar, spices, indigo, turmeric, and precious stones. Imports: firearms, horses, metals, silk, and luxury goods. 6. Currency and monetary practices. A. Coinage system. Continued and adapted Mughal system. Issued Hans, gold, paisa, copper, and rupaya, silver. Regional variations existed, e.g., Peshwa coinage in Pune, Holkar coinage in Indore. B. Mints and banking. Operated mints in Pune, Satara, Baroda, Nagpur, etc. Moneylenders, sahukars, shroffs provided credit, often worked as state bankers. C. Credit and interest. Merchants used hundis, bills of exchange. Interest rates varied from 12% to 36%, depending on risk and trust. 7. Merchant classes and trading communities. A. Banias and Marwaris dominated inland grain and cloth trade, acted as financiers, moneylenders, and political intermediaries. B. Parsis and Boris active in Gujarat and coastal Maharashtra, linked to Persian Gulf and East Africa. C. Foreign traders. Armenians, Persians, and European traders engaged in port city commerce. Marathas offered concessions and alliances in return for military or fiscal support. 8. Market regulations and trade policies. Markets regulated through price controls, weights, and measures. Officers ensured food security, fair wages, and anti-hoarding practices. Issued patents and farmans for tax exemption to loyal merchants. 9. Economic impact of wars and campaigns. Constant warfare required huge revenue and military spending. Campaigns disrupted local trade but opened up new markets and plunder-based wealth. Loot from Delhi, 1737, Malwa, and Bengal financed Maratha economy. 10. Decline and British competition. Late 18th century saw decline in trade due to wars, internal conflicts, and European encroachment. British East India Company monopolized maritime trade by mid-18th century. Loss of ports and defeat in Anglo-Maratha Wars curtailed economic independence. Conclusion: the Maratha Empire nurtured a multi-layered economy based on agriculture, local industry, internal trade, and maritime enterprise. Despite constant military activity, The Marathas built a resilient economic framework that supported their political ambitions. Their emphasis on indigenous production, merchant protection, and village self-sufficiency became a model of pre-colonial Indian economy. While external pressures ultimately eroded their economic might, the legacy of their commerce, markets, and agrarian reforms remained influential for decades. Part 17. Culture, Religion, and Society under the Maratha Empire. Introduction. The Maratha Empire, while militarily expansive, was also a vibrant cultural entity. It played a pivotal role in preserving and promoting Hindu traditions, Marathi language, regional art, and Bhakti spiritualism. Its society was marked by complex caste hierarchies, religious tolerance, and a blend of warrior ethos and devotional practices. This section explores the nuanced cultural and social landscape of the Maratha era. 1. Social structure and caste dynamics. A. Caste hierarchy. The Maratha society was structured along traditional Varna-based lines: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, including Marathas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Marathas considered themselves Kshatriyas, although some had peasant or landowning roots. B. Role of Brahmins, held significant influence as advisors, scholars, temple priests, and administrators. The Chitpavan Brahmins rose in prominence under the Peshwas. C. Other castes and communities. Dalits, formerly untouchables, engaged in labor-intensive jobs with limited upward mobility. Artisan and trading castes, Sonars, Lohars, Sudars, Banias, were vital to the economy. D. Women in society. Patriarchal norms dominated, but elite Maratha women like Tarabai held power during critical periods. Widow remarriage was rare. Child marriage was common in elite classes. 2. Language and literature. A. Rise of Marathi. Marathi became the dominant language of administration, literature, and poetry. Peshwas used Modi script for official records and correspondence. B. Literary contributions. Patronized Bhakti poetry, devotional songs, and chronicles. Major literary figures: Eknath, Tukaram, Samarth Ramdas, Morapant, and Vishnu Shastri Krishna Shastri Chiplankar. See Sanskrit and Persian. Sanskrit remained the language of rituals and scholarly discourse. Persian was used in earlier Maratha diplomacy and in dealings with Mughal-influenced courts. 3. Religion and Bhakti movement. A. Predominant faith. The Maratha Empire was rooted in Hindu religious traditions, especially Vaishnavism and Shaivism. Temples were cultural and administrative centers. B. Bhakti saints. Saints like Tukaram, Namdev, and Samarth Ramdas led the spiritual revival, preached devotion over ritual, equality of souls, and moral righteousness. C. Religious tolerance. Despite being a Hindu empire, the Marathas showed tolerance towards Muslims and Christians, employed Muslim generals and administrators, allowed religious freedom in conquered territories. 4. Temples and religious architecture. A. Temple construction. Patronized the building of temples dedicated to Shiva, Vishnu, Ganesha, and regional deities. Notable examples: Jajuri Temple, Khandoba, Bhima Shankar, Tuljapur Bhavani, and Ashtavinayak shrines. B. Pilgrimage support. Encouraged pilgrimages as a form of devotion and economic activity. Provided safety and facilities for pilgrims across the empire. 5. Art and painting. A. Murals and frescoes. Developed Deccan painting styles influenced by Mughal and Rajasthani traditions. Themes included epics, Ramayana, Mahabharata, devotional imagery, and battle scenes. B. Patronage. Royal families supported court painters, sculptors, and textile designers. Miniature paintings flourished under Maratha rulers and their allies. 6. Music and performing arts. A. Devotional music. Abhangs, devotional songs sung in praise of Vithoba and other deities. Kirtans and bhajans became central to village life and religious festivals. B. Classical influence. Supported Hindustani classical music, especially Drupad and Khyal traditions. Developed forms like Natya Sangeet, musical drama. C. Dance and drama. Tamasha, a popular folk theater combining music, dance, and satire, gained patronage, used to educate, entertain, and critique politics. 7. Clothing, lifestyle, and food. A. Attire. Men wore dhotis, angarakas, turbans, feta. Women wore 9-yard saris, novari. Nobility displayed status through gold ornaments, embroidered turbans, and silk garments. B. Cuisine. Simple, grain-based meals, bakri, rice, dal, vegetables, and pickles. Royal kitchens served rich meat curries, sweets like puran poli, shrikand, and pan. 8. Education and knowledge. A. Gurukulas and Pathshalas. Children, especially Brahmins, studied Vedas, epics, philosophy, logic, and grammar, focused on moral discipline and religious values. B. Libraries and scholars. Royal courts maintained libraries of palm leaf manuscripts, encouraged study of Ayurveda, astronomy, law, Dharma Shastra, and political treatises. 9. Urban and rural social life. A. Village life. Villages functioned as self-sufficient units governed by panchayats. Festivals, folk music, and rituals provided social cohesion. B. Urban culture. Cities like Pune, Satara, Kolhapur, and Thanjavur became cultural hubs, flourished with markets. Temples, performance spaces, and public baths. 10. Festivals and fairs. A. Religious celebrations. Celebrated Ganesh Chaturthi, Diwali, Holi, Ram Navami, and Dussehra with pomp. Wari Yatra to Pandharpur was a major devotional event. B. Secular gatherings. Fairs, jatra, were held for trade, matchmaking, and cultural exchange. Royal courts organized poetry recitals, musical contests, and debates. Conclusion. The Maratha Empire embodied a rich cultural synthesis rooted in Hindu traditions, regional identity, and Bhakti spirituality. Their support of Marathi language, local arts, religious tolerance, and traditional social systems helped create a distinct and lasting civilizational identity. Despite the pressures of warfare and political fragmentation, the Marathas preserved and advanced a vibrant culture that influenced generations beyond their time. Part 18. Foreign Relations and Diplomacy of the Maratha Empire Introduction. The Maratha Empire, while primarily an Indian power, had a far-reaching impact on the subcontinent's geopolitical landscape through shrewd diplomacy, strategic alliances, and active military interventions across regional powers. Their foreign policy aimed to expand influence, contain threats, and build networks of tributaries and allies, often navigating between the declining Mughals, emerging European powers, and regional Indian kingdoms. 1. Diplomatic Philosophy and Strategy, AA, Realpolitik Approach. Marathas followed a pragmatic and flexible foreign policy, guided by opportunity rather than ideology. Used a mix of treaties, marriage alliances, military intimidation, and revenue-sharing arrangements. B. Spheres of influence. Maintained influence across northern India, Delhi, Punjab, Rajputana, eastern regions, Bengal, Orissa, and southern states, Mysore, Hyderabad, Karnataka. Divided territories into directly controlled regions, tributary states, and friendly buffer states. 2. Relations with the Mughals. A. From hostility to hegemony. Initially hostile to the Mughal Empire, especially under Aurangzeb, who tried to crush Shivaji and his successors. After Aurangzeb's death, 1707, the Marathas capitalized on Mughal decline to insert themselves into imperial politics. B. Role as kingmakers. Installed and deposed Mughal emperors, most notably. Supported Shah Alam II during his restoration. Acted as protectors of the Mughal throne, controlling decisions from behind the scenes. C. The 1752 Treaty of Ahmadnagar, Mughal emperor granted revenue rights in Malwa and Gujarat to the Marathas, recognized them as legitimate military protectors of the empire. 3. Relations with Rajput states. A. Mixed alliances. Rajputs, especially Jaipur and Udaipur, were wary of Maratha dominance. Sometimes allies, sometimes adversaries, depending on Maratha demands for chauth, tribute, and military passage. B. Strategic marriages and agreements. Occasional political marriages and non-aggression pacts helped reduce tensions. Rajputs remained semi-autonomous under Maratha hegemony. 4. Relations with the Sikhs. A. Limited direct interaction. Geography limited frequent contact between Marathas and Sikh powers in Punjab. However, the Marathas aided Mughal-Sikh conflicts briefly. and later tried to expand influence into Punjab during Ahmad Shah Abdali's invasions. B. Maratha campaign in Punjab. Raghunath Rao's campaign, 1758, temporarily ousted Afghans and brought Punjab under nominal Maratha control. This was short-lived and ended with the Third Battle of Panipat, 1761. 5. Relations with southern states. A. Nizam of Hyderabad, a major rival in the Deccan, fought multiple wars. The Battle of Palkad, 1728, marked a significant Maratha victory. Relations oscillated between hostility and fragile truces. B. Mysore Kingdom. Initial friction under Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, especially during Maratha expansion in Karnataka, formed shifting alliances during the Anglo-Mysore Wars. See Carnatic and Tanjore. Marathas, especially those in Thanjavur, held sway in Tamil regions and supported local polities. Played balancing roles between Nawab of Arcot, French and British. 6. Relations with the Rohillas and Awad-e-Rohilla campaigns. Marathas supported the Mughals against Rohilla Afghan chieftains in Rohilkhand, demanded Chauth and threatened military action when refused. B. Awadh alliance, maintained cordial ties with Shuja-ud-Dawla, Nawab of Awadh, coordinated in resisting Abdali's invasions and dealing with British advances. 7. Conflict and diplomacy with the Afghans. A. Ahmad Shah. Abdali invasions. Abdali viewed Maratha influence in Delhi and Punjab as a threat. Led to major confrontations culminating in the Third Battle of Panipat, 1761. B. Aftermath of Panipat. Devastating loss for Marathas, but diplomatic resurgence followed in later years under Madhav Rao I. Rebuilt networks in North India through careful diplomatic rebuilding. 8. Interaction with European powers. A. British East India Company. Initially limited contact, relations grew tense as British gained influence. Signed various treaties, Treaty of Salbai 1782, Treaty of Bassein 1802, that affected Maratha sovereignty. British diplomacy eventually undermined Maratha unity, leading to the Anglo-Maratha Wars. B. French maintained friendly ties. Employed French-trained officers like Benoit de Boigne and Perron in the Scindia army. Collaborated with the French during Anglo-French conflicts in India. C. Portuguese and Dutch limited interaction. Portuguese controlled Goa, but lacked major influence. Occasionally traded or dealt with Dutch merchants along the Konkan coast. 9. Diplomacy through marriage alliances. Marriage was used as a tool to solidify regional alliances and internal cohesion. Marriage was used as a tool to solidify regional alliances and internal cohesion. Key examples: Shahu's descendants married into influential Maratha houses, Holkars, Scindias, Gekwads. Marriages into Rajput and Deccan nobility to maintain friendly ties. 10. Diplomatic corps and envoys, trained diplomats. The Maratha court developed a cadre of scribes, messengers, interpreters, and negotiators. Diplomats were often Brahmins or Kayasthas, trained in Persian, Marathi, and administrative law. B. International missions. Sent delegations to Delhi, Hyderabad, Calcutta, and other courts. Negotiated treaties with European companies and Indian kings on matters of revenue, land, military aid, and non-aggression. Conclusion. The Maratha Empire's foreign relations were defined by adaptability, regional dominance, and shrewd statecraft. While they faced resistance from regional powers and European competitors, their diplomatic ingenuity allowed them to control vast territories and influence political developments across the Indian subcontinent. However, internal divisions and external manipulation, especially by the British, eventually undermined this diplomatic strength. Part 19. Military structure, strategy, and the Anglo-Maratha Wars introduction. The military was the backbone of the Maratha Empire's rise and expansion, combining traditional Indian warfare with evolving European tactics. Over time, their structure adapted to new challenges, culminating in prolonged confrontations with the British East India Company during the three Anglo-Maratha Wars, which ultimately determined the fate of Maratha sovereignty. 1. Foundation of Maratha military power. A. Shivaji's military reforms. Guerrilla warfare, Ganimikava, was Shivaji's hallmark. Emphasized mobility, terrain advantage, and hit-and-run tactics. built a well-organized infantry, fortified hill forts like Raigad, Pratapgad, and a small but efficient navy. B. Cavalry dominance. Light cavalry was the Maratha army's core strength. Known for swift raids, long-distance campaigns, and strategic use of shock tactics, soldiers were primarily recruited from Maratha and Kunbi clans with deep local loyalty. 2. Structure of the Maratha military: A. Infantry, Paga and Bargir. Paga troops maintained and paid by the state. Bargir troops, soldiers who borrowed equipment from the state. Light infantry preferred speed over heavy armor. B. Cavalry divisions. Divided into regular cavalry, mercenary units, and feudal levies, Sardar's private armies. Famous cavalry generals: Santaji Gorpad, Danaji Jadhav, Holkars, and Scindias. C. Artillery. Developed under later Maratha rulers, especially Baji Rao Afurn and Mahaji Scindia. Employed European gunners and trainers, especially French officers like de Boigne and Perron. D. Navy. Pioneered by Kanhoji Angre, who created a formidable coastal fleet, controlled Konkan coast and resisted European naval forces, especially the Portuguese and British. 3. Military strategies and tactics. A. Guerrilla warfare. Effective in the Western Ghats and Deccan Plateau, enabled smaller forces to harass, ambush, and disrupt larger armies. B. Mobile warfare. Marathas specialized in high-speed campaigns, often moving hundreds of miles swiftly, famous for their raids on Delhi, Bengal, and Punjab. C. Strategic forts. Over 300 forts formed the defensive spine of the empire. Forts like Sinhagad, Raigad, Pratapgad, and Rajgad served as military and administrative centers. D. Revenue-based expansion. Military campaigns often aimed at acquiring Chauth and Sardashmukhi, not necessarily direct control. This tactic financed the army and expanded influence without administrative burden. 4. Evolution in the 18th century. A. European training and weapons. Mahaji Scindia modernized the army post-1761 with French military training, created standing armies, improved artillery, and introduced European drill techniques. B. Infantry focus. Brought discipline to infantry regiments under commanders like Perron and de Boigne, enhanced capability to hold territory, not just raid. C. Multi-pronged command. Decentralized structure with powerful regional military leaders: Holkars, Indore, Scindias, Gwalior, Gaekwads, Baroda, Bonsles, Nagpur. 5. Anglo-Maratha Wars. Overview. The rise of British power led to a series of 3 major conflicts with the Marathas, which marked the empire's decline. First Anglo-Maratha War, 1775-1782. A. Background. British supported Raghunath Rao, Raghoba, in claiming the Peshwa throne, opposed by the ruling Peshwa Madhav Rao II and Maratha Confederacy. B. Major events. Battle of Wadgaon, 1779. British forces were defeated and forced to sign a humiliating treaty. British later regrouped in Bombay but faced strong resistance. C. Outcome. Treaty of Salbai, 1782, restored peace. Recognized Madhav Rao II as Peshwa. British gained trading rights and Marathas promised not to aid Mysore. Second Anglo-Maratha War, 1803-1805. A. Causes. After the Treaty of Bassein, 1802, between Peshwa Baji Rao Tau and the British, other Maratha leaders, especially Scindias and Bonsles, opposed British interference. B. Key battles. Battle of Assaye, 1803. Arthur Wellesley defeated the Marathas. Battle of Laswari. British won again under Lord Lake. Bonsles defeated in Battle of Argaon. C. Consequences. Marathas lost territories in north and central India. Scindia and Bonsle domains reduced. British emerged as the dominant power in India. Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1817-1818. A. Background. Peshwa Baji Rao II tried to reassert Maratha independence. British prepared for full-scale war to dismantle the Maratha Confederacy. B. Campaigns and battles. Battle of Khadki, 1817, and Battle of Koregan, 1818. British faced resistance but prevailed. Holkars, Bonsles, and Scindias were defeated in parallel campaigns. C. Collapse of the Confederacy. Peshwa abolished exile to Bithur with pension. British annexed most Maratha territories. Only princely states like Gwalior and Indore remained as subsidiary allies under British control. 6. Legacy of the Maratha military. A. Impact on Indian warfare. First Indian power to effectively challenge Mughal and European supremacy through indigenous and hybrid strategies. Pioneered use of fast-moving cavalry and decentralized command. B. Influence on British military. British adapted their own tactics after observing Maratha mobility and guerrilla warfare. Many Maratha forts were incorporated into British military systems. C. Inspiration for nationalism. Maratha resistance, especially during the Anglo-Maratha Wars, became symbols of pre-modern Indian nationalism. Leaders like Shivaji and Bajirao Bhawan inspired later freedom fighters. Conclusion. The Maratha Empire's military system evolved from Shivaji's guerrilla warfare to European-style armies by the 18th century. Despite being one of the most formidable military powers in Indian history, internal divisions and superior British coordination led to their downfall during the Anglo-Maratha Wars. However, their legacy lives on in the annals of Indian military history and national pride. Part 20. Legacy and Historical Significance of the Maratha Empire. Introduction. The Maratha Empire, which rose in the 17th century and extended its influence deep into the 19th, left an indelible mark on the political, cultural, and social fabric of India. Emerging as a powerful native force in a subcontinent dominated by the Mughals, and later contested by European powers, the Marathas redefined Indian polity, warfare, and governance. This final part explores the enduring legacy and multifaceted significance of the Maratha Empire in Indian history. 1. Political legacy. A collapse of Mughal dominance. The Marathas played a central role in dismantling the Mughal Empire post-Aurangzeb. Their campaigns in Delhi, Malwa, Gujarat, and the Deccan challenged Mughal hegemony. By the mid-18th century, the Marathas were the de facto rulers of much of India. The rise of regional powers inspired the rise of other regional powers like the Sikhs and Rajputs by showing that imperial decline created opportunities for local sovereignty. Their confederacy model encouraged decentralized power. See influence on British expansion. The Maratha resistance delayed British consolidation of India for decades. British military and administrative strategies evolved in response to Maratha resistance, shaping colonial policy. 2. Administrative and revenue systems. A. Chauth and Sardashmukhi. Maratha fiscal systems created innovative models of revenue extraction without annexation. The practice of collecting Chauth, 25% tax, and Sardashmukhi, 10% additional levy, reshaped political relationships in India. B. Peshwa administration. Developed a highly structured bureaucracy under the Peshwas, integrated military, revenue, and judicial systems in a streamlined manner. Pune emerged as a political and cultural capital under Peshwa rule. 3. Cultural and religious contributions. A. Promotion of Hindu identity. The Marathas, especially Shivaji, revived and defended Hindu religious institutions and temples, patronized Sanskrit, Marathi literature, and religious scholarship, provided support to Hindu pilgrimage centers, and restored sacred sites desecrated by earlier invaders. B. Marathi literature and language. Literature flourished under the Bhakti movement and royal patronage. Poets like Samarth Ramdas Morapant and Vishnu Shastri Krishna Shastri enriched Marathi culture. C. Architecture and forts. Developed fort architecture suited to hilly terrain, blending defense with administrative utility. Notable structures include Raigad Fort, Shaniwarwada, and Pratapgarh. 4. Military legacy. A. Indigenous military innovation. Developed effective cavalry-based warfare, especially suited to the subcontinent. Their tactics were later studied and partially adopted by British Indian forces. B. Resistance to colonialism. The Anglo-Maratha Wars were among the final major indigenous challenges to British imperialism before the revolt of 1857. Their defeat marked the start of total British supremacy, but also revealed vulnerabilities in colonial rule. 5. Legacy of Shivaji Maharaj. A. Symbol of Swarajya, self-rule. Shivaji became the eternal icon of Indian resistance and indigenous leadership, revered across India as a warrior king, administrator, and protector of Dharma. B. Inspiration for future nationalists. Leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Mahatma Phule, and Vinayak Damodar Savarkar used Shivaji's legacy to mobilize nationalist sentiment. Shivaji's coronation and empire were symbolic precedents for self-governance and cultural pride. 6. Decline and enduring memory. A fall of the empire. The defeat in the Third Anglo-Maratha War 1818 ended formal Maratha sovereignty. British annexation of territories dismantled their political and military structure. B. Survival through princely states. Maratha lineages survived as princes under British suzerainty, like the Scindias of Gwalior and the Holkars of Indore. These states later played roles in Indian independence and post-1947 integration. 7. Impact on modern India. A. Federalism and confederacy. The Maratha Confederacy anticipated federal governance models, balancing autonomy and central leadership. In post-colonial India, federal principles resonate with Maratha administrative structure. B. Reclamation of history. Post-independence India witnessed a revival of interest in Maratha history. Institutions, museums, textbooks, and films celebrate the Maratha struggle and vision of governance. C. Forts and tourism. Maratha forts are now heritage symbols and tourist sites. These locations serve as cultural and educational centers promoting regional pride. 8. Contributions to social change. A. Empowerment of non-Brahmin classes. The Maratha rise from non-Brahmin rural warrior groups challenged caste hierarchies, empowered the Maratha caste and related communities to seek political power and land rights. B. Role in reforms later. Maratha rulers, especially in the 19th century, supported social and educational reforms, promoted Sanskrit education, patronized reformist thinkers, and facilitated modern schooling systems. Conclusion. The Maratha Empire was more than a regional power. It was a force that reshaped Indian history. Its impact spanned politics, warfare, culture, and society. From resisting Mughal oppression to challenging British colonialism, from building administrative institutions to preserving Indian traditions, its influence endures in India's identity, federal structure, and nationalist thought. The legacy of Shivaji and his successors continues to inspire movements for self-governance, justice, and pride in Indian civilization. Though the Maratha Empire formally ended in the 19th century, its spirit of Swarajya lives on in the hearts of millions.